Hi, I'm Beran Parry, and today we're going to be talking about abundance.
Hi, and welcome to the One Life Wellbeing Podcast, where your well-being always comes first. We're your hosts, Greg, Beran and Chris, and we're here to help you really make the most of your life. We're going to do this by sharing all the best ways to put well-being right to the heart of every day. So join us every week to feel better, to look great, and to start to really enjoy life, because that's what wellness really means. Okay, if you're ready, let's get started.
Hi, I'm Beran Parry, and I'm here today with Greg Parry, wellness specialist. He's going to talk to us about abundance. And Greg, this is such an interesting and fascinating subject. How did you get interested in abundance?
Hi, Beran. I think it's a subject that everybody is really interested in because abundance affects absolutely every aspect of our lives. But I guess the real question is, what do we really mean by abundance? I mean, can I turn that around? What does abundance mean to you?
Abundance means many things because you could be abundantly healthy, abundantly happy.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating is that we're all striving, I think, to have more abundance on many levels in our lives.
I agree, yeah.
So what type of levels do you focus on?
That's a good point. I think it depends on the individual in question. What most people are concerned about today is something as basic as money. Money. And most of the people I know would certainly admit to wanting more of it, even though it seems to bring its own unique form of problems. So we can look at abundance in its traditional form and think about wealth and opulence. But I think really what we're striving for is a level of comfort and security that gives us a kind of peace of mind. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. We're all looking for peace of mind. And abundance is also about not just the money side of things.
Yeah, that's right.
It's about having good health, because when you have abundant health, you have abundant energy, for example. So what about bringing in more energy into our lives?
You're right. I think for me, from my perspective, abundance covers a whole range of different aspects. It isn't just about money. And I'm very happy to talk about it because it's such an important subject, but I much prefer to broaden it out. And I think it's a great place to start. We're looking at health. And it's only when you don't have enough good, strong health, that you don't have enough well-being, that you realize that that's an area of your life that really needs a little bit of work and help. So because we work so much in the area of health and well-being, it's usually my favorite starting point. Hey, look, your body is where it all begins. It's where it all happens. This is the place where you live. So my first mission is to make sure that your permanent home, your body, is a comfortable place to live in. So
that's really interesting. Yeah.
And I think if you look at some of the methods we talk about, the ways that you can create additional income in your life, the way you can boost money in your life, improve revenues, all of those very positive messages. You know, if you don't have good health, a lot of those issues are somewhat superficial and wasted. So the fundamental for us is, let's get your health into the best possible condition. And do you know where we usually start? You'll like this one.
Yes, I'd love to know.
Yeah. It's food. It's about nutrition. It's about what people eat. Does that surprise you?
Oh, that's my favourite subject.
Yeah, that's your favourite.
Absolutely, because that would produce, eating the right food would produce the right energy. So
that's right.
So what type of foods would you recommend to bring more energy?
That is such a sneaky question. This is like with the world's leading expert on a subject asking me what I think. Well, in a nutshell, it's about getting the kind of foods out of your diet that cause a problem, because, you know, the body evolved to be super efficient, to be full of energy for us to be able to live life and do everything we need to do. And the way that we eat today, with highly processed foods, with all the things that you write and talk about, having, processed foods, burgers, hot dogs, factory farmed meat, the list is endless. I think the things that you tend to focus on usually start with sugar.
Absolutely. And of course, once you're having these toxins, it slows down all the energy. So since abundance is about having more energy, anything toxic, as you say, is going to be the worst thing to
I
consume. And that's going to take away the abundance of energy in your life.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before in another podcast about the things to put in your life, the things to avoid. But I guess in a nutshell, if you go for natural, unprocessed food, that's got to be the starting point, because the crazy thing is, it's going to have a direct influence on the quality of all those little bugs in your gut.
Yeah, that's a
intestinal
great
flora.
answer. Excellent. I really love that answer. It's so correct. And what about mental energy? Because we're all looking to have more mental energy in our lives, whether it's mental energy and more focus or concentration or motivation in our lives.
Yeah.
How would we get more of that into our lives?
It sounds like a crazy question because we're talking about abundance, and people think, well, I can relate to health and money. That's a good expression of abundance, but mental abundance. And what we're really discussing here is the fact that most of us are a product of how we think, but our thoughts tend to be fairly random, or they're a product of our conditioning, our culture, the early programming that takes place in childhood. So if we can learn how to focus our thoughts, how to gather our thoughts and create this really simple, helpful discipline of controlling a little bit more how we think, that's a point when your mind becomes a very rich source of creativity. Can you imagine if you could just stop the voice in your head, the clutter, all those images and thoughts constantly rushing through your mind? If we can learn to calm down, do you know one of the most effective ways to do that? You probably do, don't you?
Meditation?
Yeah, it's meditation,
Oh,
but it's breathing too. It's also breathing.
So it brings in the abundance of mental energy into your
It does
life
indeed.
then.
But it's really about learning how to slow the whole process down. Cut out that frenetic activity just by breathing a little more deeply, really gently, comfortably. But when everybody says, "Oh, count to 10, take a deep breath when you're getting angry," that's a really great piece of advice, because the deeper breath, the pause, just helps you to re-establish control. You feel much more centered, much calmer. And that's a way for you to tap into some of your more powerful potential mental energy. And you mentioned meditation, absolutely right, I agree with you. It's a fantastic way to bring discipline and order and structure to the way you think. I know most people listening to this will probably be shaking their head saying, "Stop the thoughts in my head." It is supremely challenging, I know. It's for all of us.
Yes, it is for all of us.
But if you just don't aim for perfection, guys, just breathe a little more deeply. If you want to practice meditation, you do not need anything too sophisticated. Just focusing for a few minutes on your breath helps to calm everything down. But
that's very interesting. And would the meditation help with emotional energy as well? Because I think nowadays we have feelings and emotions, and sometimes these are too negative. But what we really want is an abundance of positive emotions in our lives.
This is one of my favorite subjects. It's one of the reasons I think I was motivated to write the book on abundance, because the emotional energy that we use drives everything. But it's not always obvious, because a lot of the emotional drives are coming really from the subconscious. And that's relevant because we're not necessarily aware of how these forces, these programs, these conditioning elements are influencing the way that we're reacting. But a lot of it's old material from our early childhood that's locked in the subconscious. And it frames the way that we see, we think, we feel. It's quite strange, but that's how we function as humans. So if we can learn how to direct that huge amount of emotional energy, we can channel it, direct it towards the things that we really want to have in life, that's a really powerful Kickstarter to achieving very, very powerful. I mean, can we talk about this in another way? Because our emotions are usually based on reacting to events or people, aren't they?
I guess so. We are reactive in the way that we operate.
I mean, some people just probably annoy you. You're looking at me like I'm one of the people that annoy you. Can't believe that. I mean, it's just normal. But the way that we react is really based on a knee-jerk reaction. It's an unconscious reaction. So when we have an emotional reaction to a person or a situation, it's really, really helpful to catch yourself doing it. You know the word we sometimes use, awareness? That's the moment where it can really help you. So just as you're reacting, you can just stop and think, why am I feeling this way? Why does this person seem to get under my skin, make me angry? And in stopping at that moment and just giving a little bit of analysis to the way you're reacting, you can short circuit the knee-jerk reaction. It may not work 100% of the time, but come on. If it works half the time, you're going to be saving a lot of time, a lot of energy from overreacting to a situation or a person. And gradually, you learn how to become, I guess, more focused, more relaxed. You have fewer of those knee-jerk reactions because they're usually negative. You're nodding. Yeah, they're usually negative. And it helps you to train and direct the way that your emotional energy functions.
That sounds really interesting. And do you recommend some kind of structure that we could use to help to improve positive emotions?
You know, I'm going to give a great plug. Some of the meditations, the guided meditations that I do, are specifically intended to help people to slow down and to tap into the subconscious resources so they can make these little changes, these little shifts. And that's why this lends itself to the tapping technique. You know about that? About
yes,
EFT?
yes. I think I read it in your new book about the tapping. Yes.
That's right. This is a widely practiced method that came out of some research in the 1970s, that there are places in the body that you tend to touch when you feel stressed or have anxiety. And by just tapping on those points with the fingertips and using key phrases to unlock some of the knee-jerk reactions and give yourself some alternative ways of thinking and feeling about any kind of a situation, whether it's with a place or a person, that can help to transform everything. This is, some of the
You're
work
absolutely
we do.
right. As an EFT therapist myself, we do tapping all the time. And a lot of my clients are also looking for more creativity in their lives. They feel blocked for whatever reason.
That's a good description.
And I think abundance comes in as well, because if we can unlock that creativity that is within all of us, that is a kind of an abundance as well.
Yeah, you've got to create the space. You've got to create the space effectively in your own heart and your own mind to do a lot more. It's very hard to negotiate. You know, you can't negotiate with your subconscious. You can talk about it for 20 years in therapy. The brilliant thing about the tapping technique is that it just bypasses a lot of the conscious blockages, and you go straight into the programming, and you can begin to rearrange the way that you think and feel about a whole host of things. So if you discover you have a particular blockage in an area, you can tap on that obstacle and you can remove it. And as you know,
that's
so
fantastic, because
fast.
that would give people a way of tapping into their own creativity, which is what we're all trying to do.
I don't know if people listening to this are aware of how EFT, emotional freedom techniques work, but I think one of the most surprising things, there are two things I just wanted to mention. First of all, it seems to work very quickly. You get very, very quick results doing this. And the other thing is that it can affect you physically. So, obviously, we are a product of how we think and feel. And if you use EFT techniques, if you're tapping, this can even help you to lose weight, which is pretty amazing if you think about it.
It is, absolutely. And nowadays, we can even do EFT with our therapists on Skype. So we don't even have to leave our own home to be able to do it effectively.
That's an amazing thing, to sit in the comfort of your home and be able to deal with these issues in privacy, but with somebody who can guide you through the process and take you from where you are, where you feel stuck, and in a matter of an hour, deliver you at the end of a very simple, painless process to a new state of thinking and feeling that supports real well-being.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. Excellent. And coming now onto the financial side of it.
Okay.
So how do we bring more wealth into our lives?
Well, we've got a whole bunch of techniques which we've explained in the book. And as you probably know, there are going to be further courses available on this particular material. There are a couple of things I want to mention. You know that there are, literally thousands of books and downloads on the subject. But what I've found in doing research is that there seems to be an element that's missing. There's always an element that's missing. And the key ingredient is your deeper attitude towards money, which doesn't sound particularly obvious, does it?
No.
But it is, because it tends to frame and reflect very much how you deal with money. How, in fact, you create the environment around you which either supports abundance and wealth, or which in many, many cases effectively blocks it and makes sure it doesn't happen. So this is the contradiction. You may have a great plan. I've got my great plan to be a millionaire by Christmas. And it's not just the obstacles and challenges of life, it's your own internal emotional and mental architecture that's blocking the way. It's about your attitude, your deepest attitude towards the possibility of success.
That's so interesting. And I think everybody's going to ask the obvious question. So how can I change that attitude? What can I do? Is there some kind of course I can take, or some advice that someone can give me to really improve my attitude with money?
You know the answer, because we've been working with people in this area for a long time. As well as advising individuals, we obviously advise corporations on this subject, because it's a very important element in having success, whether it's on a private level or on an industrial scale. The key is to examine the individual, to look at the individual, whether it's a corporation or a person, and really dig down and find out exactly how they feel about this subject, because that's where you have the most amazing revelations.
I know you've been doing some massive research about this, and that's what's so interesting at the moment, is discovering our own personal relationships with money.
Yeah, you don't even think about it. You think, a relationship with money. But it's a good way of describing it, because let's just talk about money for a moment. Money is a fantastic commodity because it only exists because we believe in it.
That's true, actually.
We've got pieces of paper and we've got little bits of metal, and they have a value because we agree that it has a value. And it's real because we all agree that it's real. And on a subconscious level, you can use that belief system to really accentuate all kinds of possibilities in your life. I mean, we can build plans, we can do practical things, we've got lots of practical advice about how to do this, but the nuts and bolts, getting the right kind of emotional structure, those are essential. Those are essential to really welcoming abundance.
That sounds amazing. Are there any kinds of courses that people could take that could help them with this to achieve their or improve their relationship with money?
For me, I want people to be able to measure the results. So the kind of coursework that we've offered to people always makes this a stipulation. If it's going to work, you have to be able to measure it. And that's why the coursework that's available through the One Life Wellness Group is specifically designed to get people to the point where they can start to have measurable results in terms of acquiring more money, more happiness, more health, whatever we want to describe it, is about total abundance. So that's been very motivating for me, to really share an incredibly positive message with as many people as possible, but also to help people recognize that the limitations that they kick up against are most often in their own heads, they're in their hearts, and helping people to remove those limitations. That's quite an interesting exercise.
That is. And finally, let's talk a little bit about the spiritual abundance. So how would you improve your spirituality?
I don't know. That's such a tough question, because as soon as you say spirituality, we always tag that word with the notion of religion. And for this exercise, I'm going to keep those ideas really separate and have a non-denominational approach, because, well, we know that since the earliest times, I mean, our distant ancestors were curious about who they were, why they were here. And some of the greatest minds that have ever lived have really struggled to frame that question in a way that people could understand. So for me, one of the most important aspects of spiritual abundance is to look at, how can I put this, to get a deeper understanding of who you are. Now, I know a lot of people, most people would say, I know who I am, it's on my ID card, it's on my driver's license. But I'm talking about a much deeper appreciation of your real potential. And that's not something anybody can tell you. I think that's a very powerful, personal, deep, and an inspirational experience. Touching that deeper sense of self is way beyond all the roles that people play. It's beyond the masks they wear. And I think it's one of the great keys to developing a much more powerful, more balanced approach to everything in life, because it's ultimately an expression of a reality of who you are. It's a fascinating subject.
It is. I think a lot of people are going to be really interested in that. And are all these areas covered in your new book?
Yeah, we took abundance, and it was very tempting to focus just on a couple of areas, but it made a lot more sense to look at the human abundant experience across 7 sections. We've looked at the physical, we looked at the mental and emotional, we've looked at human creativity, we've looked at relationships, which often surprises people.
Yes, that's an
important.
interesting one too.
But we've dedicated a large chunk of the book to the important subject of money, of material wealth, and how to engineer circumstances to create more wealth in your life. And we after looking at money, we wrap it up with a quick glance at the potential and the power of inner awareness. Those are the areas which we've covered. But I tell you this: the techniques and methods we describe can be used for anything in your life. They really have universal application.
I love this idea about abundance in relationships, because whoever the relationship is with, if we can produce more happiness from our relationships, that surely is an abundant thing to have.
Well, again, the methods are about really developing a healthier relationship with yourself. And most people, what? With myself? Am I schizophrenic? No, but you do have a way of seeing yourself, feeling, sensing who you are. And when you develop a better sense of self-acceptance, a little bit more forgiving about who you are, it becomes much easier to be comfortable around other people.
Self-forgiveness, I agree, is a huge part of it.
And one of the things I mentioned in the book is that, just because there may be relationships in your life which are just really tough, and you may have done everything you can to make them right, and it's one of those moments when it's kind of fun for you to just let go, to accept that in some cases, if you've done everything you can, it's really cool to move on. I mean, I'm a big advocate of helping people to let go of things they just don't need.
And just to wrap up, can you give everybody 3 things that they can do to bring more abundance into their lives?
Yeah, here's the first thing. I want you guys to breathe. What? Yeah, I want you to breathe, because when you breathe, you're going to detox your body, you're going to calm your mind, you're going to harness some of your creativity. It helps that constant rush of thoughts and distractions to slip for a moment into the background. And that moment of relaxation can reveal an enormous amount of creativity. The second thing is to learn to relax a lot more. If you take the habit of fear away from your everyday experiences.
That's so true.
That's one of the ways you can move the limitations much, much further out. You can expand the range of what's possible just by getting rid of the fear. And I guess really I'd like to come back to the very first subject you touched on. And let's just think a little bit about health, because it is the only body you've got. We come from one life well-being, because this is your life, and we really believe that everybody deserves to be able to enjoy it to the max. And to do that, you really need to have the best possible health that you can create. So taking good care of yourself is a really important pathway to total abundance.
Great. Well, I understand that you've created a free abundance assessment, and it can be accessed on the website for everybody to enjoy and analyze themselves. So if you go to our website, www.parrywellness.eu, you can find the assessment there. So
that's right.
That would be fantastic. Everybody can assess themselves. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for this incredibly interesting interview. And I think that you've given us all a lot of food for thought. And congratulations on your new book.
Thank you very much. I could really talk about this forever. It's such a big subject, but I just want to thank you for having me along today. But also thank everybody for listening. I hope I get a chance to be with you again. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Bye-bye.